Okay, I can't see myself there. I see Steven, so that's fine, right?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody. The time is 6:31 on Wednesday, August 11th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Should we close that door? All right, Audrey's on it. Our first order of business is the consent agenda. There are some minutes and warrants and obsolete technology disposal. I think since it's written out as 4 line items, we'll take them A through D. First up is minutes. Has everyone have a chance to read the minutes?
Yep.
Do they look like they're accurate, and are there any changes that need to be reflected?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Oh, Jeff.
Negative.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Bartos,
Aye.
Ms. Karen,
Aye.
Ms. Pelletier,
I'm gonna abstain. I was not.
okay, and Ms. Millet.
Aye.
Miss Shuda. You didn't call Audrey.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Shuda.
Aye.
All right, next up is warrant 6, and we'll do warrant 6 and 8 together. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Do we need to? I thought that was only when we're remote. But is it
Well, I
Stephen's
think it's-
remote that you're doing it?
Stephen's remote, Adam's
Okay.
remote.
Okay.
We're supposed to be remote.
Are people allowed to come into the building at all?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Ms. Bartos,
Aye.
Ms. Karen,
Aye.
Ms. Pelletier. Aye. Ms. Shuda.
Aye.
Ms. Millet.
Aye.
All right. And obsolete technology disposal, I have to admit, I didn't see that in the drive, so,
There wasn't anything.
okay, is David here? Hi.
So I will address that.
Okay.
This is an annual vote. Sometimes it's done twice a year. Usually every summer. We have a lot of equipment that is dysfunctional or obsolete. The majority of that equipment was stuff that was donated to the schools many years ago that we used for several years. We got good, useful life out of it, but now it's at a point where it's no longer functional or obsolete and doesn't meet our needs anymore. So we have a recycling company that picks it up for no charge, properly recycles the materials for no charge. If there's any data on the devices, they destroy the data. So it's the same company we've been using for several years. So this is pretty much a routine vote. We have a little more turnover in Granby than probably other schools because we still do utilize a lot of donated equipment, and the life cycle is shorter. So whereas some schools might purchase something and get 5, 6, 7 years out of it with donated equipment, in the best case scenario, is when we get 3 years out of equipment. So, but I will say that we are using more purchased equipment these days, but we still do continue to rely on donated equipment. So once again, the majority of the stuff that is going out was donated equipment that we used. Got good life out of it, but now we have to rid ourselves of it.
Excellent. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to dispose of the obsolete technology.
A second. Go ahead.
Ms. Bartos,
Aye.
Ms. Karen,
Aye.
Ms. Pelletier,
Aye.
Ms. Shuda,
Aye.
Ms. Millet.
Aye.
All right, next up is visitors'
Thank
com. Oh, thank you.
You.
Next up is visitors' comments. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session for the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. I see we have some attendees, so do we have any visitor comments today? We'll give it a minute. Looks like most of them are staff. I saw a couple names pop up. This is visitors' comments. If there's anyone, just go ahead and hit the raise hand feature on your Zoom and we can call on you. We'll go to 6:37. I don't see anything. It feels like an eternity when you're watching the clock tick. 20 more seconds. If I were a swimmer, I'd be able to swim 100 yards.
Just to say, right? We know how every second counts.
6:37. All right, moving along. Next up is continuing business, the school enrollment dashboard. Stephen, do you want to take it or do you want Stacy to?
I can get it started, but Alex, if you could promote Stacy, that would be helpful. So I hope that we can spend some time tonight talking about the dashboard itself. So we shared, does it make sense for me to share my screen?
Yes,
Try to.
so everyone can see it.
Alex, can you give me permission to share my screen?
You should be good to go.
So I think we've looked at a couple different iterations of the enrollment dashboard or school choice numbers over the past year plus couple years. So after the last meeting, I felt it might be a good idea to go back to the drawing board a little bit and start fresh and set up a dashboard that we can use that collects the information that the school committee is looking for, that we want to be looking at and discussing. So Stacy and I have been working on this. I know we sent it out last week for some feedback. We got some feedback, made some additions and some changes, and I know there's some other questions out there too. So to start, I think we want to be really clear that this is data from, we included the end of the year from 2021, but really data for the 21-22 school year. There's been some questions about students who didn't appear as school choice or private last year, and I know and we will be better about those things. And Stacy and I have already talked about some ideas and are getting some things moving. But all that information would not necessarily be reflected in this dashboard. If we wanted to look at including a historical choice out type table or data chart, that's something that we are certainly open to. We'd have to figure out, what the starting point of that would be. And I just want to make sure if we're using that, it's going to fit within the discussion. So that's something that we can look at. That question has come up from two people, so I just wanted to make mention of it here. But so you'll start to see, and I think Stacy and I have even talked about, once we land, that this is something that we could display even on our website or make it public in some way, shape, or form. But the whole idea is really making this the chart that we're looking at. And I would propose that we're looking at it monthly, maybe the first meeting of the month, to talk about the month prior. Saying we have all the information from August at our October meeting, all the information from September running chart. So we'll end up seeing the whole year, July through June. To allow you to manipulate a little bit, resident, non-resident. So I have all three checked, so the total number shows 714. But if we just want to look at non-resident enrollment, we click there. We see that we have 109 non-residents, and it goes through who are continuing at which grade and who's a new enrollment, and then ultimately a grand total for those things. So if you manipulate that, this chart in any one of those ways, it will give you those specific, but if you click on all three, it will give you the total numbers.
So why don't those numbers match then?
Because we're down.
We have a net loss of 2 students from
Okay,
when we ended the school year in June to with all the movement that happened in July.
okay, so just to make sure that I'm understanding it, 714 is the total district enrollment as of whatever the last date was,
The last
July.
day of July.
Okay,
Yes, and then, so in September, you'll see the same chart for August up here, and in October, September, and so on. So you'll always have this chart by the month. So Jen, you had talked last month about like a plus minus. That will give us some indication of the plus minus, but there's also a chart down here to the right that I think will also provide a visual representation of, right, so the green is how many students came into the district.
I'm having
your
flashbacks.
audio is not very good.
The red is how many students we lost, and then the blue will be the total. Stacy, do you want to take it?
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So to kind of leave off where Stephen was, the chart on the right is going to show in the green the total number of students who have entered in the month of July. The red is the total number of students who have left in the month of July, and the blue is the grand total of the 714. As the months go on, you're going to see them being added to this chart. So August will be another bar chart right next to it. It's just going to be a continuation, so we can see the gains and the losses for every month.
Great.
The question I'm having is when we are, next month will be right next to it. There's not a way of having like the green next to the green, the red next to the red to kind of track it rather than like, because it'll be by month, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The bars should be small enough, and if she's got the numbers in there, it should be,
Right.
it'll be a month-to-month progression. I do like having the numbers in there because I think it'll be a little bit easier to see the true plus and minus. And we'll see how it looks when we get the next month up there, if we think it'll be, if we want to make any modifications.
And just to clarify as well, the pivot table to the left of the chart, that will always be for the month that we're discussing. So these are the July numbers, how they break down for this chart on the right. Next month will be August, so these numbers will look different. So if we've only had, 3 new students move into the district, then there may only be the 3 on this chart. So just for clarification there.
So for clarification, this withdrawal breakdown is only for the month of July.
Yes,
This 26 total is,
yes.
wow.
So 26 withdrawals, that's crazy. That seems crazy high, but is that, because I don't have a grasp on it, is that 26 in July, is that about normal for, like with normal fluctuations, or I feel like we're hypersensitive to it because we haven't seen the data like this before.
Right, it is. So we average about 20 to 25 in the last 2 years that I've been here. But for this particular July, we've lost 12 students for moving and relocating. So they've moved out of Granby to either other towns in Massachusetts, and several of them have moved to other states.
Okay, all right.
And I think just to prepare yourself, August probably is another big mover month, not in terms of that first column, but July and August, between registering new students and students moving and choosing new schools, there's probably more movement or as much movement in those 2 months as any other month.
So we get the higher number during the summer months, and then when we get into the actual school year, there's always movement, but it's not usually in the 20s, like October, November, December, right?
Right.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, Stacy.
No, that's okay. So usually during the year, we may have maybe 1 to 2 leaving each month. Generally, the biggest influx of enrollment comes after Christmas break. We always see a chunk come in January, beginning of February.
Okay. Any other questions on these first couple of charts? I have a question. I just want to talk through on the resident, non-resident tuition enrollment chart.
Sure.
And I apologize, I was supposed to send my questions in ahead of time, but I didn't. Can you just explain what the tuition students are, why they're different than non-resident resident?
Yes. So tuition students are students that are living in other districts that are attending Granby. And those districts are paying a tuition fee for them to attend one of our programs here.
So they're right. So they're yes. So they're attending it for a specific reason, not just choicing into the Granby Public Schools. So those schools, so it's basically, it's not the school choice amount that we're receiving from those districts.
Okay. All right, do you guys have any other questions on the, oh, we have one more chart too. That's just the visually, wow. The picture of what we're, what the one on the left is.
Yeah. And that one again will expand month by month. So we're able to see a comparison of non-resident, resident, and tuitioned over the course of the year.
Okay. Now the homeschool one underneath that, this is the
Right here,
compilation.
Am I in the right spot?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
This is the one that we've been trying, I feel like is capturing better what we've been asking repeatedly about homeschool. So the kindergarten, so that the way I'm reading this is that this was a pre-K student that is now going to be kindergarten that's continuing to homeschool.
That may be a typo. That should have been, it says continuing. So to be more specific, it should be continuing or new homeschool students. Pre-K can't have homeschool, so that would be a new K student who's not joining us here at Granby, but instead choosing to homeschool for their first year.
Okay, so it wouldn't be, I don't want it to, the continuing is great. We can understand for kindergarten, but the continuing, these numbers, the 2, 3, 6, 8, 11 of those are ones that started to homeschool last year that are returning to staying homeschool.
Not necessarily. These are any student that's homeschooled. They could have had their entire career being homeschooled. So this is a combination of the students who have started newly homeschooling as of last year due to COVID, or those that have been in homeschooling for their school career.
Okay, and the 11 that are unknown homeschool plans, those are 11 families that we haven't heard back. And these, where are the COVID homeschool kids that we've been trying to wonder if they were coming back? Is that this 11 then?
They're mixed in. Again, it's a combination of continuing homeschool students and COVID homeschool students.
Okay.
We
And
can
so,
adjust that chart if we need to. We can have true continuing COVID homeschool. Or we can leave it combined.
Well, I guess it's up to the rest of the committee, but that was one of the things I felt like we had wanted to track to kind of see where we're at, but maybe I'm all wet on that, which.
My only concern is I don't necessarily want to label it COVID homeschooling because maybe someone
Right.
tried it and it worked for their family and it doesn't have anything to do with COVID.
Okay, we'll name it, but the impetus of it was how we ran the remote school, like, they were unhappy with something that we did in the district that.
Not
Potentially,
necessarily,
right, yeah. I think
People
there's,
homeschool for lots of reasons.
right, so that's tough. I don't know how,
Okay,
I would even just call it home, like even the continuing, even just having a homeschool column. I understand the unknown because I'm assuming that means they just haven't heard back yet,
Mhm.
which also I don't think is uncommon because they have to submit curriculum and maybe they haven't done that yet and, and will this month. But something to track homeschool, it's just helpful. I don't think in years past, we'd probably even ask because normally if you homeschooled, you traditionally had early on and always did. And this is more of a new trend that we're just gonna continue
well,
to
it's because the
see.
number jumped so significantly
right.
as a
Mhm.
result of the, we were hearing information. It was because they didn't like what we were doing. So
If we go back up to the first chart, sorry, Stephen,
No problem.
there is a return from homeschool,
okay,
Yep.
that's,
if
all
that
right.
helps.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I looked at it, I read it, it didn't register. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No, and I forgot that it was there, so it just popped into my head, so I wanted to throw it out there.
And we can, if it's helpful, we can also get an accurate number of what we had for homeschool in 2019-20. I don't have that offhand, but I can certainly get that just for like a true comparison's sake to give us an idea of where we are with that 24, how much higher or lower it might be.
Mhm.
Because I was given the impression based on conversations that I had, maybe not just with other people, that our number went up quite dramatically. So it would be interesting just for me to see. I don't know that we necessarily need to track it that way, but if we could just get that number for the next time we review it, that'd be great. Or you can just send it to me when you find it. I don't know that anyone else cares.
Yeah, we can share that with everybody. That's easy enough for us to get. And I think part of the reason too, when you look at homeschool plans unknown, before we can approve a homeschool student for the 21-22 school year, if they were a homeschool student last year, they need to submit their final plans and grades, I guess, if you will, from last year. So like admissions and approvals are kind of on a rolling basis based on when we receive that information and then the 21-22 application.
And also, Jen, just to your point, because I did hear, of an increase potentially as well. We got to remember that this is July and it is already August 11th. So if there was an increase, we wouldn't even see it reflected here yet if it had just happened this
Right.
month.
Any other questions on this?
I don't have a question, but I was gonna say that I was one of the ones that had asked about the school choice out data that I spoken to Stephen about, and more so than wanting to know how many kids we've lost in total. For me, it's more of because we're paying out for it, just kind of keep track of what that number kind of is, not necessarily for private, but just kids that are choicing out because we obviously are paying that fund for them to go out, and kind of know where that number trend is. Is it 20 kids? Is it now 30 kids the next year? Is it like where that kind of number is? So I don't know that it needs to, or, seniors are graduating. How many of those are we not? I just think it's something that I was interested in, kind of knowing where we were at with it.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, so sort of similar to when Tracy Novak did her presentation where it showed how many were leaving to different districts. Is that what you're looking for?
I have no concern over what district they're going to, just
Just in
running
general.
how
Is actual choice
that's
rather than
financially
private.
impacting
Yes.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just an overall number.
So for that, In order to have the most accurate numbers for public and charter schools, we would have to wait until after the October SIMS. All of the data from all of the schools gets fed to the state automatically. So when the data starts flowing to them, which is around October 1st, the report's due on October 29th, they will generate a report letting us know where all of our students are going, either public or charter school.
Yeah.
We
so
don't, we don't know otherwise.
Right.
That seems.
And yeah, unless it's been a student that's withdrawn this summer, we know where they're going. But other than that, if they've, never stepped foot in Granby or they left 5 or 6 years ago, we won't have that information until the state starts generating that report.
But, and I would say too, Stacy, even, right, there's a potential where a student applied to school choice in Belchertown and South Hadley, left to tell us they're going to Belchertown, and then last minute they get into South Hadley. So we don't know until the SIMS report, like till that SACID, that student ID shows up in another district to confirm it. So
correct.
So we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. So we can use our own data, but then confirm, we have to confirm it from the state. But to Stacy's point, annually we'll get a report that lists our school choice students in and school choice students out. So that's a report that, we can pull those numbers as soon as we get it, share that information with the school committee, and we can decide somewhere on this dashboard that might just live. We might just say in 21, 22, X number of students choiced out, X and Y number choiced in. So we have it counted for here. But the rest of the data dashboard that we have, we'll get into some of the more specifics, but that total number is something, as soon as we have it, we can find a place for it to live here if that's helpful for people.
I think it would be helpful. And like Audrey said, I want to have sort of, for lack of a better phrase, like the price tag associated with it, the school choice out, because like we've talked about a number of times, there might be a school choice out to go to a special program that's going to be more expensive than the standard tuition. And then if they're going to a charter school and we have to pay the whole amount rather than just the 5,000 or whatever, just so that we can start to have some real meat behind those data points. And then when we get peppered with questions around, further for budget, we really can point to it like, look, we've spent, I'm just going to start playing with numbers like 180,000 for charter schools, which is, 13,000 more than we had played before, or whatever the case may be. So we really have the historical data behind that. And I think that's where Audrey was going with that. So we can have sort of like a tally, right? So that it'll be easier for us when we're questioned to really be able to answer those with very good information.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that will be easy enough for us to do as soon as we have that from the state. So I'm anticipating that's a conversation at 1 or 2 meetings, whatever we decide, as soon as we get that. So we can share that with you. We can share the number, the cost out, the cost in, the net gain, the net loss, whatever it is. And then we can have that live on this chart. And that is probably an annual or twice annual conversation where we're going to have some of these kind of more enrollment discussion monthly. But I think that makes good sense to me.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on this?
Now that we're in this, Stacy, maybe it makes sense for us to look at those charts from last year, and that's something that we can at least throw like a mock-up on here, and then get some feedback on that.
Okay.
So we can talk about that.
Okay.
This week or next week, but it might be worth throwing it out there so that they can see it and what we can come up with, and then we get some feedback.
I have a tickle in my throat.
Okay.
Okay. Next up.
Right. So are we all set with sharing the screen?
Yes, thank you.
Of course. Stacy, anything else that you wanted to add about the dashboard that I missed?
No, I think between the two of us, we've covered everything that we've discussed, and I think we're okay. I think we're in a good place. I think this is a good starting point. And I'd like to just build off of it as we move forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Stacy, for your work on this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.
All right, next up is new business. First item is Lowe's donations.
I think that's Nancy Jenks.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hi. So we received an email from one of our staff members, Beth McQuaid, who works for Lowe's part-time, and they are asking if they could donate $500 in hand sanitizer and masks for us for the upcoming school year. So I'm on the meeting tonight to seek your approval for that, since it's a donation.
Sounds good to me. Do you need a vote?
I think so, yes.
Yes.
All right. Any other discussion on that?
Nancy, do the supplies meet the requirements that the school has and that you would have for student use or faculty use?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a, oh, let's go, Jen.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the sanitizers and supplies.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bartos.
Aye.
Ms. Karen.
Aye.
Ms. Pelletier. Aye. Ms. Shuda.
Aye.
And Ms. Lot.
Aye.
All right. Next up is Juneteenth. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate getting those donations. That's wonderful.
And
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you to Beth for initiating this too. That's great.
So Juneteenth, I just wanted to mention, Audrey brought it to my attention. For the 21-22 school calendar, we have, I'm just trying to call it up here. Our last day of school right now is June 13th, but should we have to extend by anything more than 4 days, then Juneteenth comes into play. So I think all we're asking for is that the calendar is amended just to make note that if we have to go 100 to the 185th day, that it would be June 21st, 2022, and not June 20th, 2022, because June 20th, Juneteenth would be observed on that Monday, seeing as it's a Sunday holiday in 2022.
I guess there's really not a choice, right? So. Do you want to vote? There's really not anything that we can do about it, right? It's a new federal holiday, so.
Right, in terms of the day off, no, I think this is just a step to make sure families, it's on their radar. In the event that we have cancellations, right? There's still a lot up in the air between blizzard bags and no blizzard bags. So it may come into play. I hope that it doesn't, but having it on the calendar sooner than later is probably helpful.
Yeah, so I think what I would like to see is have the calendar, I don't know, is it already updated on the calendar?
No.
So why don't we get the calendar updated before the 24th? Or for the 24th meeting, and then we'll have it, and then it can be sent out with all the beginning of the school year stuff.
Okay.
We can take a vote on it if you want, but I don't think do you think we need to? It's a federal thing, it's just really just housekeeping.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other question I have, since calendar is here on the agenda, I know it's under Juneteenth, but I had talked to Carol at one point about having the start and end times for each building being listed on that calendar. I had missed that meeting that it was discussed due to my daughter's birthday. So I don't know if thoughts on that being added, or we are just adding this Juneteenth and call it a day and we'll worry about that next year.
We can add those times as well and then bring
I
it
just think
back
it's
on the
like
24th.
nice. It's all in one spot. You look at the calendar, you see what, the start time, end times.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do it, might as well just be inclusive of what the early dismissal time is and what the
Yeah,
half
'cause
day
that's
time
already-
is.
Oh,
I think that's on
It
there,
should be
but
on
It
there.
is.
Yes, it is,
Early
but it
dismissal.
doesn't say like what regular dismissal time is and all of that.
So that would
School
be
day runs
great just to have-
7:33 to 2:20.
so, because I think,
Yeah.
that would be great. Good
Sure.
catch.
We'll add,
Slide that in there real quick.
we'll add those things and then bring it back on the 24th.
Thank you.
All right. Here's the big one, COVID prevention guidance.
And I would say too, that this is probably also the conversation for D and E. One is the COVID policy and one is the mask policy. So I asked Jackie to add those to your folders just for your reference. So I don't think we need to go into different discussions about those things. I think wherever we land on this is going to guide us for that policy, but I just wanted to call those to your attention.
Perfect. So why don't you go ahead then, Stephen?
So the state has put out guidance strongly recommending students that all students in grades K to 6 wear a mask when indoors except while eating. They recommend that all unvaccinated staff in all grades, unvaccinated students in grades 7 and above, and unvaccinated visitors mask indoors. They recommend that schools allow vaccinated students to remain unmasked, and individuals at higher risk for severe disease from COVID-19 or with a household member who is at high risk are encouraged to mask regardless of vaccination status in alignment with the state mask mandate, state mask advisory, sorry. That came out July 30th, and I think even in the 2 weeks since that, not quite 2 weeks, a lot has changed. I think Hampshire County remains one of only 2 counties in the state that there is not a mask mandate. I get the sense, I don't know if Dick Bombardier is on. I know we had reached out to him. Let's see, one phone number.
He reached out to me right before the meeting and said he got a call and he wasn't able to make the meeting.
Okay, so I think we know the personal feelings of 2 of the 3 select board members.
No, Board of Health members.
Board of Health, sorry. Board of Health members regarding the preventative measures. I think they're really pushing vaccinations. And I think they're based on what we've seen from them, supporting mask wearing as well. I also included in your folder for tonight our vaccination rates as of, that was as of Monday. I got those. I don't know if you want me to display my screen again.
That'd be good.
But so essentially that's it. That's the guidance. I think we're seeing more and more districts right now kind of heading requiring masks for everything. I know Worcester came out literally about 2 hours ago. I know Holyoke, but shoot, scroll. So I think part of the concern that the Board of Health members that I've spoken to or heard from are really concerned about the vaccination rates. I think one of the numbers Dick said was between 12 to 40. I think we're less than 50% in Granby of vaccinations. Now we have 12 to 15, 47% of those young people have received at least one dose. 61 in that next group, 56. Well, at 20 to 29 is probably not a major concern for us. But I think with the low vaccination rates and the surge from this Delta variant, I think Board of Health is certainly urging caution and really pushing vaccinations. And I anticipate, I would not be surprised if we see a mask mandate in Granby by the time we meet next, regardless of what decision may be made here.
Yeah. Going in the wrong direction.
I just want to point out too that there's a Granby Schools COVID tracking form in the folder. That was, it just gives you kind of a breakdown day by day of cases that Granby's seeing. It just reflects the surge. Which one is that? It says Granby COVID vaccination rates at, no, sorry. It is Granby Schools COVID tracking form.
I don't have that.
I don't have that.
Me neither.
What?
I don't have that either.
Well, somehow I have it. It's very helpful. That's bizarre. How can I see which? Oh, it's from Nancy.
It is something that Nancy has shared out in the past.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's updated to all the way through from the start of when Board of Health. So I think we've talked about this before, and in my time in the Health and Safety Committee. Huh? Did they have that? Just that the Board of Health was really great about updating every single day on the town website, how many cases we've had total and new cases day by day. And this is just 57 pages of that data, starting all the way from, April 2020 to yesterday. It just gives a breakdown. There were 8 cases, for example, just within the last 2 days. But I don't know why I have it. I can share it. Yeah, maybe.
It sounds like the information that you talked about was part of the committee.
Well, right, but the committee hasn't met, so I don't know. This was it was right on my main screen. But regardless, it's also all public. It's on the town website. Anyone can view it. Board of Health puts it up every single day. So just for reference, there, like I said, as of yesterday, there were 3 new cases. The day prior, there were 2. The day before that, there were 8. So it just shows the trend of this Delta variant. That is what has everyone.
So Dick Bombardier.
Does it break it down that far, or it's just?
No, you can't even test for Delta. You don't know what it is.
Right.
It just shows the cases
Right.
are increasing.
Dick had said that we're at the same level as we were before around Thanksgiving last year. Even with vaccination, the cases in town are about where we were last year and the week before Thanksgiving. So hopefully it's not going to be that same trend, but so I think we need to figure out what we want to do for masks, but want to know what the administration is thinking about as far as class size, because there's not really been much talk about spacing, and what we're thinking of for lunch.
Right now, there are no distancing requirements from the state.
Okay,
State
that's
has
good.
said they want students in person. And have not put out, and I don't know if we should expect them or not, but they have not put out any distancing requirements. I should point out that they have also put out masks are required on school buses and in the nurse's office. That is a federal mandate. So regardless of any decision, they are required in those spaces.
Just as that popped in my head, is there gonna be, so like if a student needs to go to the nurse, is there gonna be a spot? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. Never mind, I'm good. Moving on.
So it
Yeah, and I
just,
think we want to be cautious with our lunches, but you know, I think what we were doing last year, some lunches at East Meadow, even 3 or 4 at the high school, presented some real challenges. And I don't know how sustainable that is. So,
And we didn't have a full population in.
and we didn't have a
So-
full population in, right? So we have looked at the potential use of dividers, instead of 2 students facing the same direction, maybe adding a 3rd student facing the same direction. But there have not been any requirements or guidance given related to distancing.
So if we do lunches outdoors in the nice weather, like with a tent or something like that, when they're outdoors, then there's not mask mandates. Is that still correct? Is that?
That is still correct, and that's part of the DESI's latest guidance. I should have said that before. Those recommendations for masks are all indoors. There's no outdoor recommendation for masks.
So we still have some picnic tables, right? So we have to see if we can continue to use the picnic tables from Dufrane's, right?
Yeah, well, we had to give those back last June.
Okay.
We can certainly ask again, but I think the reason we were able to use them was because the pavilion wasn't being used, and now the pavilion's being rented again.
Okay. So I guess that's sort of where we're at, but I guess should circle back. I don't know how we want to tackle this. Do we want to do what we're thinking for masks first and then come back around, or what do you guys think? How do you want to go through this?
Well, to me, it sounds like masks is kind of the topic because there are no distancing guidelines. It sounds like, and Stephen, you can correct me, but it sounds like what you're saying is within the space and, you know, confines of the schedule and the daily logistics, you're going to do the best you can to create, you know, as much space as you can between students and, you know, trying to keep that environment as safe as possible, despite the fact that there are no distancing requirements at the present time. And then just kind of continuing to monitor that should that change. And so to me, it sounds like the mask piece is kind of where we need to focus and, you know,
So
address that.
my only thought process is if we still keep in line, like the one direction on each side of the hallway, even though there's no distancing, so that everybody's not running into each other, facing each other, but like a highway, everybody going in opposite directions. And like being divided on opposite sides.
Well, if we're wearing masks though, if they're wearing masks, does that need? Where's the?
Well, I'm just thinking the high school. Everybody's out. And if we still keep that divider, everybody going in certain directions, stay on certain sides of the hallway instead of facing each other, walking into each other, even if they have
closed
masks.
traffic?
Yeah. Just to keep it flowing smoothly.
Well, I think we need to bring it back to masks first, though.
Mhm.
So we know that districts around us have gone with well, like Stephen said, Worcester is mandating all masks regardless of vaccination status. Do we want to do something similar? Do we want to start getting into, the vaccinated, unvaccinated? How does that go? Do we then open up the rabbit hole, with proof of vaccination or anything like that? So I guess for me at this point, it just, as much as it pains me to say, I feel like we need to do masks indoors regardless of vaccination status. Just until we either get more guidance from the state or, I don't know. It's certainly not what I thought we were gonna be sitting here saying in August of 2021, almost 2 years, almost 2 years later.
I agree. I didn't think, and I had hoped we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. But I also think, we're going to be meeting twice a month. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to make changes as we get more information. And I think we might not be able to ask for individual vaccinations, but those vaccination rates might allow us some flexibility at some point down the road if we wanted to talk about certain benchmarks, maybe not tonight. But if we hit them as a town, that might be another way to look at it.
Sure.
So I agree. I want to keep the kids in the school. I just
Yeah.
want them in the school. So if we have to make a small sacrifice and everybody has to wear it.
I think, I really don't feel like there's much of a choice, honestly.
So, yeah, I was gonna pretty much say the same thing. The guidance from DESE, from CDC, American Association of Pediatrics, it all says that they recommend wearing masks indoors. So for me personally, I didn't really think it was even much of a discussion. That's what's being recommended to keep everyone safe, to keep them in school. And that's our biggest goal, is to keep everyone in school and healthy 5 days a week.
And I even think they've even gone farther than where things were from DESE's guidance. In terms of, the 7 through 12 versus vaccinated, unvaccinated, like how do you tackle that? What does it look like in schools and everything else? Because there's been continuing data and information coming in where, in terms of managing that in the school, keeping students in school, and, looking at the big picture of it is much safer and a better option to keep kids learning and take a step back if you're in a good place.
Right.
Rather than saying, okay, now we've lost a class or a grade or whatever due to a spread and we have to change things around totally and start again. Coming at it from a safer and, approach, I think is going to be the wiser way to keep students here and learning.
And also, I just want to say, I feel like at this point, I even hate to even say it, but there is not a remote option at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That has not changed.
So
Yep.
we want to make sure, I want to make sure that that's clear to everybody that's either listening or that will watch later, that, there is no remote option. Kids are coming to school unless they're choosing to do something else. So that's one thing. So the masks, that's for everybody, and that'll be everyone in 5 days a week, full days, unless otherwise scheduled or whatever. So
And for clarity, this is for all students and faculty, correct?
everyone in the building, or
All right.
every visitor, every vendor, everybody.
For indoors only, obviously outside, we're gonna.
Outside, it will be a horse of a different color when we
Right.
get further guidance, I think, but at
Yep.
this point, even the state is saying if you're outdoors, it's fine. So I don't think we have to talk about that.
No, I'm just
for-
saying just to for people to think about that, like they're still gonna have recess and I'm sure snack and all those things, like we can still,
Yeah,
get the kids outside and.
and
have
for
those
sports, it
breaks.
doesn't look like they'll have to necessarily mask at this point. Although I probably am putting the cart before the horse. I don't know if where we're at with what MIAA is saying or whatever, but this is indoors only, everybody.
Yep.
Right?
Except when eating.
Well, I feel like that's goes without saying, you can't eat through the mask, right? But yes, without eating or drinking, right? So,
Yep,
Can
so
we
and
do-
I will just say for everyone's information, we will have to negotiate with the union on this. If we're making a requirement for teachers, but the indications I've received at this point, based on that, I don't see that as a problem, but it would need to be bargained or negotiated.
So Stephen, I don't want to cut you off at all. But just in looking at the policy itself, that we had that was revised from February of 2019. And looking at just information that's been put out there, is that something that we can potentially update with new information, new guidance in terms of references, but similarly keep that policy in place?
So I think it's probably not bad practice that we're having this conversation tonight, that we take that mask policy that we used last year, update it, and make an official vote on the 24th.
sounds good.
And I'll make sure that's in the folder the Thursday before. You know, but just, I want to make sure you guys would be okay that if in communication that we're having with parents and families, we let them know, like, this is the way that we're leaning. While it might not be official because the vote hasn't taken place, this is where we're leaning right now.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. And I think that's fair. I think in my personal opinion, it's easier to scale it back, should we need to scale it back, than it would be to say these people have to wear them, these people don't, and then all of a sudden we're saying everyone has to. I think if we have to start peeling it back, then I think it's easier to do that. But I don't think this is gonna come as a surprise. I know it is gonna upset some people, I'm sure, but you know, my personal opinion is it's, I think, a small price to pay to ensure that we have students in person 5 days a week. And I think ultimately that's our goal. And you know, I know that I don't want to be working full time and have my children home again this year. So if we can prevent that this way, I think it's a fair step.
I would tend to agree. Is there, and so we'll not vote on it until the 24th? Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense, and that allows another opportunity for public comment on it, and then we can make the vote on the 24th.
and it also gives any more time for any more additional guidance or whatever.
Right, and Stephen, will you be reaching out to families in some way to give them a heads up? That,
Once we have the vote.
Once we have the vote. But in the meantime, if we're waiting until the 24th, as
Yes.
staff coming in, are we?
Staff has already received an email from me, strongly encouraging them to wear masks when in the building. So it was not a requirement, but it was strongly encouraged, and I definitely saw more masks last Thursday and Friday than I did prior to that. And it's been increasing a little bit actually all summer, I would say. But yes, I will also ask the principals and anything that they send home that, you know, that this is the direction that we appear to be headed in it right now, and there'll be a vote on the 24th.
Sounds good.
I just want to make sure that that line of communication is open even before the vote, you know, by the 24th, it's going to be so close to when the kids are going in.
Yeah, I believe they're both sending out something home this Friday, so I'll ask them to make sure that this is included in that. Of
Thank you.
course.
Do you want to go over the two policies, or do you feel like we've touched on it enough at this point, or?
I don't think we need to go over the full policy. I guess one, let's see. The EBC supplemental, I think still pretty much rings true. But I wasn't sure if you recalled, was there an end date to that policy, or was that just something that is in place until, because it says for COVID-19 related issues. So I still feel like we're working under that umbrella. So it might just be updating the school year and some dates like that, but I just wanted to make sure we were all in the same plans.
That's what I was gonna say, is I feel like maybe we just make an addendum that it's updated for the 21-22 school year. And just, and we have adopted January 5th of this year, but we can have revised as of, August 24th or whatever. We'll vote on it all at that point, just, everyone could read through if there's anything else that needs to be, updated, but I think it's really just, the dates at this point.
Well, it talks about the back to school plan.
I feel like that's still, things could go from bad to worse and we have to, the superintendent still has that ability, I would say, in the, or we can make a supplemental EBC -1 or section A or whatever, and just, it's updated with that we're going, but I feel like this is all pretty good stuff. We just want to make sure that it's updated to correct year.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but we'll make the necessary updates with dates, and if anyone notices anything, they can send it to me or Jackie, and we'll have that for the 24th as well.
Anything else?
Not on my end.
All right, superintendent's report.
So just wanted to remind everybody, I can't believe that it's already August 11th, but we have new teachers returning. They're coming to training August 24th and 25th. Then we have our full staff returning for August 26th and 27th. We'll have convocation on the 26th. And then students in grade 1 through 12 return on September 30th, and pre-K and kindergarten.
August 30th.
August 30th, sorry. August 30th, and then students in pre-K and kindergarten return on September 7th. So just want to keep sending that message out there that it's coming fast. So if people have any questions, they can certainly contact the main office in their schools. I will have my entry plan on the August 24th agenda. I know I mentioned that last month, but I'll have the full plan for August 24th for that meeting. I think some people watching and many of you know that the plan is already started. It's just, ironing some details out in it. So I will present that to you all on the 24th. I also wanted to remind everybody, we put out that coffee and a conversation. There is one with the district leadership team, both East Meadow and the junior senior high school have had one already with just building administration, but there's one with the full district leadership team on August 19th. That will be in the East Meadow, at East Meadow, likely in the library. And that begins at, say 9 o'clock, but I'm going to confirm that.
5 believe it's 9 o'clock for me, now they talked about, consistency and time and stuff.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I believe it is 9 o'clock, Stephen, because me and
Yes.
Alex did talk about it.
Yep, 9 to 10. So we'll be at East Meadow, and that's really open to anybody in the community, kind of like an open forum, any questions people have about anything to do with the schools. Like I said, the entire district leadership team will be present at that. East Meadow will be having an open house on August 18th from 4 to 5:30. Really geared, I think, for any students who will be new to the building. But if you have any questions on that, you can feel free to reach out to Mr. Latoy or Mr. Taylor. That is again August 18th from 4 to 5:30 in East Meadow Open House. Another thing I wanted to mention to you all is last week we sent out a survey to East Meadow families about a before school care program that we've been considering. We've kind of had some internal conversations. We sent that out last week. As of today, Mr. Latoy had heard from 43 families and 23 of them expressed an interest that they would participate. And 20 said no at the time. Again, that's obviously not everybody, but basically we're thinking about running something for 1 hour before East Meadow opens. We know we've heard it in the past that some parents are, they're trying to get to work. They have to bring a student to the junior senior high school for 7:15. And then they have this hour kind of in limbo in between. So they're figuring out that time. So we're looking into what that option might look like. I hope to have a little bit more information on the 24th, but our goal is if we can get that up and running, that we run it basically every day that we're open 1 hour before school for East Meadow families. We also see it as a potential community service or internship opportunity for students at the junior senior high school because it would basically be their first period class. So working on those details, but wanted to bring it to everyone's attention and let parents know that if they're watching this and they haven't checked their email for whatever reason, that email from Mr. Latoy did come out last week. So feel free to respond or reach out to the East Meadow office if you have any questions about that. And last thing, it's been touched on a few times tonight, and I'm going to touch on it again. I think vaccinations are the most preventative things that we can do to, at least stem the transmission of COVID-19. I am not one who is going to politicize this in any way, shape, or form. I hope people are open to it. I hope people, can do what they need to do to get their vaccination or ask the questions that they need to ask to make the most informed decisions that they can. We are hoping to offer another vaccination opportunity at the Granby Public Schools. Nancy Jenks sent out an email to families about a week and a half ago. We need at least 35 families in order to offer that on campus. And as of last week, Nancy only had 2 or 3. So we would really love to do this. I touched on it before. Our vaccination rate for students children age 12 to 15 is only 47%. So seeing an increase of those numbers would help us, I think, in many ways. And we want to provide some support by offering that mobile site on campus. So it's an opportunity. Feel free to reach out to my office or Nancy if you have any questions about that. And then finally, Nancy sat on a webinar earlier today, and I will follow up with her. We are looking into potential testing programs for the school year that parents would have the opportunity to opt in or out of. But having a testing option, the state is providing some more resources this year than they were last year. Last year, I think we all just felt it would outstrip our capacity a bit, but the state is offering resources. Nancy, like I said, said on that webinar earlier today, and I know there's another one next week. So it's all kind of happening last minute and fast. So we're still digesting some of what it'll look like, but as we have more information, we'll make sure to keep the school committee and the public informed as much as possible.
Sounds good.
All I have.
Is Adam on?
Adam could not make it tonight, unfortunately. He texted me late this afternoon.
Okay. And then Jill, CES?
There is a meeting towards the end of September. There's still to be determined whether it's in person or virtual. They're working that part out. And they're working on getting the agenda set up. So once I have more information after that, I'll be able to share.
Excellent. All right, before we adjourn, is there anything that we want to make sure gets, that hasn't been captured already on the agenda for the next time, for the 24th? Based on our discussions, I think we have a few things. We've got the masks, or mask guidance. What else do we have?
The school calendar.
Calendar.
Policy EBC.
Yeah.
I do have, maybe. Oh, it's just one. Oh, shoot.
You'll think of it. In the, Jackie, in our 2021 school committee folder, there's that school committee resources. Could you put a version of the school calendar in there, just so it'll out, and if we update it or make changes, it'll be nice to have it there instead of having to try to find which meeting we discussed it and where it lived.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Um,
Jen. I was actually thinking that as we were trying to find, I was pointing out to Jill, I was like, it's over here.
And I really like that we have this school committee resources. I think this might be a new way for us to kind of help keep some stuff organized. If we need to, there could be subfolders or whatever in there. But I do like this, but I would like to see the calendar out there for sure. And then if we come up with anything else, we could add it.
Good, I just remembered.
Oh,
The subcommittees.
oh, yes,
when-
we should
when are
have a discussion on subcommittees and how we want to work that for next time.
Yeah, because I was just thinking that I want to start getting that going.
Perfect, so we'll add subcommittees. Thanks for checking that, Jen. I didn't even cross the line. All right, anything else? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
you want to give us a roll call, please?
Ms. Bartos,
Aye.
Ms. Parent,
Aye.
Ms. Pelletier. Aye. Ms. Shudak.
Aye.
Ms. Smollett.
Bye.